These tips helped me heal from my trauma, and I guarantee that they're gonna help you too. And we are live. Hi, welcome back to the Rosabeth Mooon Motivation podcast. My name is Mikayla Rosabeth, and I am your host on today's episode, Season 1, Episode 8. Woohoo! Go us! We got past that Episode 7 death mark. We're crushing. We're moving right along. How's everybody's day been? Mine's actually been really well. I had a lot of really immense success yesterday's launch for Moon Magic Botanicals that we are now available for the US shipping at rosabethmoon.com. The moon has 3 O's in it, just like the podcast. And I'm just so immensely grateful for everybody in supporting me and supporting my company and Moon Magic Botanicals. I just feel so overwhelmed with happiness, and I really wanted to make this video today for you because if I didn't overcome and heal from my trauma, then I would not have been able to create a natural skincare company called Moon Magic Botanicals. I would not have been able to create this podcast to give healing and help tips. I wouldn't have been able to do any of it at all. And I made this entire career to help people, and today I'm going to give you guaranteed tips about how to heal from trauma based on the tips about how I healed from trauma. So let's get into it. In today's episode, tip number 1 through 4 are very important, but I do need to also state a statement before we go into these. According to the National Center for Biotechnology and then the Center for Substance Abuse, trauma, stress, and traumatic stress is a 100% natural response to abnormal circumstances. Simply put, you are not alone for having trauma. It is a normal response to something crappy happening to you throughout your life. There's no reason to feel ashamed about it. The only way that shame will ever win is if you let it. If you live your life being in shame of your trauma, you shouldn't even be on this video, because this video is going to tell you tips that are guaranteed to get over it. And so I wanted to put that out there first. And also, everybody reacts to healing differently. My healing came up as sadness and despair. Some others that I know come up as anger, and these are all absolutely natural feelings. So that's a little disclaimer before I tell you how to heal from it. So let's get into tip number 1. Tip number 1, begin by asking who you are. This has come up over and over and over again in my videos. I think it actually started coming up at episode 3 or 4 about asking yourself who you are is the fundamental of healing. Here's why. Scientifically speaking, you create new neural pathways in your brain that actually helps your brain heal from traumatic stress, right? On the spirituality stance, which is, for some of us, it's because pointing out your triggers, pointing out your memories will help you identify the next steps that you need to go. So tip 1, begin asking who you are. It is incredibly important. If you don't know who you are, how are you supposed to know what you want to be? If you don't know who you are, how are you supposed to know if you are going to be able to be successful? If you don't know who you are, you can't move on. That is the most important thing about this entire self-help journey, is find out who you are. It's important if you can't tell. Tip number 2, establish how you feel about the world. This is more of your feelings, right? So we talked about how enjoying writing down your likes and disliking writing down your dislikes are really important. But the reason that putting your feelings into words helps you heal your trauma scientifically is because your amygdala response actually will decrease when traumatic triggers happen because you're able to handle them since you have simply stated how you feel about it. That's incredible. It's incredible. You're actually able to understand your feelings and simultaneously have your brain respond positively to triggers, to where the triggers no longer affect you. That's exponential. So tip number 3, establish your feelings about the world. It's really going to help you. Tip number 4 is identify habits that hurt or heal your trauma. Now, we've talked about this before in a previous episode, and this one is incredibly important for healing your trauma because if you are doing habits that trigger you over and over and over again, you're never going to heal. Ever. I used to watch those shows that had couples cheating on each other all the time, and all it did was trigger my trauma from, being cheated on. All it did was trigger my trauma from being cheated on and trigger my insecurities around men, and that's all it did. And the reason that identifying these habits that hurt and heal, of course, it's going to help you because you're going to realize what actually serves you. Those shows didn't serve me at all. I was able to cut them out. They didn't serve me at all. And I was actually able to identify what helps me. I drink a glass of water as soon as I wake up in the morning. That is a good habit. Does it really heal my trauma? Well, yeah. I had body and food trauma, so when I used to wake up, I used to down at least 2,000 calories for breakfast and never drink water. So this is a good habit that I'm identifying that helps my trauma at bay. The scientific reason why identifying habits to heal or hurt your trauma is important is because addressing these habits reduces how the triggers affect you in the brain. As we said before, right? Whenever you start to actually look at something from a critical and a different perspective of, oh, you don't affect me anymore, the trigger genuinely stops affecting you. And the habits stopped affecting you, and you no longer have to do these things that hurt you. And then it finally leads to the 4th tip, right? Which is figure out if you need a mixture of a grounding practice to help your trauma, or if you need an energy practice to help your trauma, or a mixture of both, right? Grounding practices is what I needed for my trauma because the symptom of my trauma was my major depressive disorder and my anxiety disorder, but also I disassociated. I genuinely would float around my body. I needed a grounding practice really, really, really bad. And these grounding practices help connecting your 5 senses. They help reduce stress. They help with trouble sleeping. They help with helping all of it, all of your feelings. And some of these examples are TRE exercises, earthing, breath work, ice baths, aromatherapy, the 5 senses meditations, shaking out your body, those kind of grounding practices. And then on the other side, there are energy practices. There's some people whose trauma affects them in the sense of their symptoms are they're so in their bodies that they're panicked all the time. They're not actually able to feel better and to get out because they're trapped in their body. These symptoms are discombobulation, mind fog, body aches, low libido, low creative drive, difficulty eating. You feel like you're stuck. And those practices that I would suggest are acupuncture. I will tell you my acupuncture story in a future episode because acupuncture saved my life. It was amazing. There's Reiki, there's chakra healing, shamanic healing, meditation, EFT tapping. There's a whole bunch of energy practices out there that will help you too. And all I can say is throughout all of these, right? Throughout doing all of these practices, everything that I've said to you, I've tried. I've done them in my 6 years of my self-help journey, and they work. They work. I cured my major depressive disorder, my anxiety disorder. I'm no longer disassociated. I cured my body dysmorphia. I now am a success because of these tips. And I want to know which one of these resonates with you, if any. And if it doesn't, awesome. Sound off. Let me know why not. I'm very genuinely curious. Your feedback helps me and helps my channel grow and helps me give content that's going to help everybody. Also, if you prefer this podcast in a written form, I actually have that is my southern accent coming out. I have a article blog post on rosabethmoon.com under my self-help resources that is titled the same as this podcast, Guaranteed Tips on How to Heal from Trauma. I know that these are different tips from the normal, like go outside, breathe into your nose, go into meditation for 5 hours. I know that these are different, and they're supposed to be. I wanted to give an eclectic array of tips for you to start trying things to heal from your trauma so that you become a success and you heal from it. My name again is Mikayla Rosabeth. Please check out Moon Magic Botanicals over on rosabethmoon.com. The moon has 3 O's in it, just like the podcast. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow, turn on that notification bell, and follow me on my socials for more behind the scenes at Rosabeth Mooon Motivation. My name, like I said, is Mikayla Rosabeth. I hope everybody has an absolutely wonderful day, and I hope that you will heal from trauma. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Number 1, begin by asking yourself who you are. I talked about this tip a while ago. I talked about this tip, I think, in episode 3 or 4. I started really getting onto it. And I want to talk about it more in this tip because it is so important. Establishing your name, your location, your memories, your triggers, your thoughts. And for those of us that are scientific minded, logical minded, here's why. When you speak or write who you are, your cognitive processing in your brain improves. Your brain actually starts feeling better because it helps form new neural pathways in your brain and forming connections to help you through your healing process. This is incredibly exponential for healing from trauma because if you do not change your neural networks in your brain, you will always feel the same.